Notice to the public, if you wish to address the council, please complete the public wishing to address the council form. It's located at the end of the table, and give it to our council clerk. Prior to the beginning of the meeting, individuals addressing the council should be respectful of others in their choice of words and actions. All cell phones, pagers, and electronic devices used for communication should be silenced for the duration of the meeting. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Terrebonne Parish Council, August 11th, 2021, and ask Mr. Steve Trosclair if you could please lead us in a prayer followed by the pledge.
Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we ask that you guide us in our thoughts and decisions making tonight. Grant us the wisdom to make the right choices for the betterment of the parish, the people, the state, and all of us. We ask this in your name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Margot, roll call.
Mr. Amade?
Here.
Ms. Domingue?
Here.
Mr. Darren Guidry?
Here.
Mr. Babin?
Here.
Mr. Dirk Guidry? Mr. Charles Clare?
Here.
Mr. Navy? Mr. Harding? Mr. Michel? Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
I'd like to read a letter from Mr. Carl Harding. It says, please be advised that I'll be absent from tonight's council meeting due to prior business engagement, but I have reviewed the agenda and will follow up on matters requiring my attention. I apologize for any inconvenience my absence may cause. Distribute minutes of the special council session condemnations held on July 26, 2021, which has been done. Distribute minutes of the regular council session held on July 28, 2021, which has been done. Approve minutes of the regular council session held on July 14, 2021.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. Dirk Guidry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approve accounts payable bill lists for August 2nd, 2021 and August 9th, 2021. Move Mr. Dirk Guidry. Seconded Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item 1, general business proclamation proclaiming August 12th, 2021 as United Way Day in Homa Terrebonne. Mr. John Amade.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm privileged to be able to read this tonight. Whereas the United Way for South Louisiana is a nonprofit organization dedicated to creating long-lasting change and in an effort to meet the increasing needs of its member parishes while ensuring all residents have access to the building blocks to a better life, and education, health, and human care, outreach, and child care services. And whereas the United Way for South Louisiana funds 26 member agencies located in the parishes of Assumption, Lafourche, St. Mary, and Terrebonne to provide services and assistance to residents of their communities through the tradition of people helping people. And whereas with the support of others and donations, United Way is able to fund services related to cancer resources, counseling services, food distribution, child care services, assisted living services for physically and emotionally challenging individuals, safe havens, emergency assistance, and other services. And whereas during the United Way's annual campaign, hundreds of volunteers, the board of directors, staff, and the community joined together to raise donations for the programs with which touch the lives of 1 in 3 residents. And whereas the United Way for South Louisiana will kick off its annual campaign fundraiser on August 12, 2021. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Terrebonne Parish Council on behalf of the Parish President Gordon E. Dove and the entire Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government that the week of August 9th through the 13th, 2021 be proclaimed United Way for South Louisiana Week in Terrebonne Parish, and be it further resolved that all residents of Terrebonne Parish be requested to support the United Way for South Louisiana during its campaign kickoff week, with this proclamation being hereby presented on the 28th day of July, 2021. It is signed by Parish President Gordon E. Dove and our Council Chairman, Mr. Darren W. Guidry, Sr., and on behalf of all of the council represented here.
Do we have anybody representing United Way? Oh, they're late now.
On behalf of our volunteers, our board, which actually Ms. Suzette Thomas is our board chair this year, we really want to thank you. Last year was a very, very challenging year. The needs were there. It was hard to raise money just because of being able to go into locations and stuff. But just to give you an example, from 2019 to 2020, the food bank doubled their services. So the year before, actually more than that, the year before they had 12,000 individuals and families that they assisted. Last year it was over 29,000. Some people who had never sought any kind of help from agencies, this was their first time. A lot of them were embarrassed because they've been donors to United Way. They never thought they'd actually need help. So we want to thank you because Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government is one of our pace-setter companies. Y'all do a great campaign with all the different departments. We go out and talk to the agencies. So we want to not just thank you for what you give, but to also help us put the word out, because United Way is not just about raising money, but it's providing service. So this gives us the opportunity to kind of get the word out so that people know we're here to help, not just to collect money. So thank y'all very much. We really do appreciate this. And as our motto says, live united. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Orlando. And Ms. Suzette, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, sir. The United Way is so important to our communities. If you are not supporting United Way, I suggest that you maybe consider it. The many services that they provide, such as rides for cancer patients. We provide gas cards so that they can go to their appointments. We also provide prosthetics in some cases, nutritional supplements for cancer survivors. We provide daycare services for people in need. We provide funding for elderly meals and services. And you would not believe the number of agencies that are really just surviving day to day and do not have adequate funding to provide all of the services that are required from our citizens. And if you live by the motto that I try to live by, someone's circumstances today may be your reality tomorrow. A few years back, I faced that. I was working for United Way. I was a presenter, campaigning and raising funding for the United Way. And my father developed cancer. So when you start to look at the services that are beneficial to the community, please consider donating to United Way. And it's not just cancer services, it's the food bank, which we know how Mr. DeHart has come and said what he's doing to service the needs of the community. So as we kick off the campaign for United Way this year, live united, consider giving. Thank you.
Thank you for that passionate plea. Moving on, Representative Beryl Amity is here. Representative Amity, and she wishes to address the council about the legislative end of session report and to answer questions. Ms. Representative Amity, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. It's good to see everybody. And after the report that we just heard, let's hope that next year is one of those years where we flip that balance back where United Way spends a lot more time in fundraising than giving out because the need just shrinks. So this year was a fiscal-only session, and as you know, that doesn't mean a whole lot, except that in a fiscal-only year, it's the only time we can pass any bills that actually raise taxes. We started our session on April 12th. We finished on June 10th. We handled 1,702 instruments. 959 of those were bills. 37 were constitutional amendments, but don't worry, you're only going to see 9 on the ballots this fall. By the way, that'll be on 2 separate election days. Don't ask me to explain why. There were also 706 resolutions and study requests. So what we were able to accomplish this year was to simplify, we went in with goals of simplifying the tax code to make Louisiana more competitive, investing in critical infrastructure, helping students recover after missing so many classroom days due to COVID shutdowns, beefing up election integrity based on the headlines we were seeing from across the nation, and to support pandemic recovery efforts. We sent the voters a plan for centralized sales tax collection to help our small and locally owned businesses. You'll see that in the fall. We passed common sense tax reform that lowers rates for individuals and businesses, which should help provide tax relief to all of us, and move Louisiana from 42nd to 38th on the Tax Foundation's ranking of the state's business climates. We passed House Bill 514, which started off as a marijuana bill, but it transformed through the magic of the legislative process into a bill that dedicates the largest amount of road and bridge project spending since the 90s, and it does so without raising any taxes. We did that by taking the money that we already collect on the sale and lease of vehicles and setting that aside specifically for projects. We allocated special funding to help students who are behind catch up through tutoring and remedial programs, and we passed bills to help with the election process and the purchase of voting machines. So this year, we passed a balanced budget, as we always do. I say it's always balanced. It has to be according to law. You just might not like how it's balanced. This year's appropriations budget is $43.3 billion, another record breaker. Of course, as usual, the bulk of that goes to health care and education. Health care being $18.2 billion, and when you combine K through 12 with higher ed, education gets $10.1 billion. So that's 28.3 of the $43.3 billion. The state general fund, which is a portion of the budget that the legislator can actually touch, is $9.1 billion. The bulk of that also goes to education and health care. Combined, they make up 7.2 of the $9.1 billion. And by the way, for those of you that keep track of these things, the MFP this year is funded at $3.9 billion, and it tends to grow at about $500 million per year over time. This budget includes $3 billion in the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 funding. That's going to be broken up into many different things that I'll skip over unless you have questions about it later. We passed a whole tax reform package that included 4 specific bills. One of those was Senate Bill 159, which is a constitutional amendment, so that's one we'll see on the ballot this fall. If that one is approved by voters, it will limit the maximum allowable income tax rate to 4.75. Currently, it's at 6%. Another was House Bill 278 that deals with individual income, and this is a statutory bill that goes along with the constitutional amendment. It includes a trigger, the tax rates will be effective on January 1st of 2022 if voters pass the constitutional amendment. The next bill was House Bill 292, which deals with corporate income tax, and it lowers the rate of corporate income tax, and the fourth bill is Senate Bill 161, which deals with corporate franchise tax. All of these have the same trigger date of January 1st, 2022, and the corporate franchise tax will automatically lower if certain revenue thresholds are met, so it'll lower over time. We passed a few insurance reform bills, and one of them I think you'll be interested in, especially since we're in hurricane season right now, and we hope to not have to focus on this one this year. But it's House Bill 457, which enacts a standard of conduct for claims adjusters, including requiring truthful reports. It also it requires appropriate care in dealing with the elderly, and that the adjuster has no financial interest in any aspect of the claim. Another bill was House Bill 585, which requires a field adjuster report to be given to policyholders within 15 days of the day that it's requested. It also increases the penalties for insurance companies that violate rules regarding homeowner claims. And a third bill was House Bill 577, which establishes a 5-year trial program to increase the market options for residential flood policies. Now, I'll tell you about a couple of things we did in education. As a member of the Education Committee, I have to tell you, we heard over and over this year a disturbing statistic that only 45% of our state's third graders actually read at grade level. Now, we did a few things in the legislature this year to try and remedy that, including passing more funding for literacy programs in the lower elementary grades. One bill that we passed was called the Steve Carter Literacy Program, and it specifically provides supplemental education services to eligible students from kindergarten through 5th grade. And another bill in education that we passed has been nicknamed the Tops for Adults bill. It's the M.J. Foster Promise Award, and this will allow residents in Louisiana who are 21 years of age or older, who live at 300% of the federal poverty level, so that's very generous, who do not have a bachelor's degree yet, to go to a community or technical college and pursue an associate's degree or an educational credential that's aligned with our workforce priorities. So this is like the fast track to short-term education programs that can increase your income very quickly. That's called the M.J. Foster Promise Award. I believe that enrollment will be up significantly at Fletcher as this takes effect. Now, because you are a local government, let me tell you about a few municipal bills that we passed. House Bill 415 allows tourist commissions to create tourism recovery and improvement districts with approval from 2/3 of the business within the district. House Bill 261 requires background checks for potential fire and police civil service board appointees. If they don't pass the background check, they won't be qualified to serve on the board. House Bill 412 requires fire and police civil service employees who resigned or retired due to an injury or a medical condition to be eligible for reemployment after receiving clearance from a doctor. And House Bill 622 establishes the Office of Rural Development within the governor's administration and gives them the authority to deal with broadband, water quality, and sewer treatments plans. And I believe tonight we have a gentleman who's going to hopefully speak to you briefly about broadband. So I've heard the plan, and it's promising. Next, I'll move to wildlife and fisheries. We passed House Bill 655, which removes the criminal penalties for low-level hunting and fishing violations. And we passed House Bill 691, which updates, restructures, and simplifies the Department of Wildlife and Fishery fees for recreational licenses, commercial licenses, and vessel registration. Now I'll just give you a few quick bills in a variety of topics. For economic recovery, there's a formula in law that requires an increase in the unemployment tax whenever it's necessary to keep the unemployment fund solvent, which we did face this year. Due to COVID shutdowns, we actually exhausted our unemployment fund and had to borrow from the federal government, even though a year ago, in January, we were sitting in a really good position. Our unemployment fund was funded better than most every other state. So it's a good thing we started off from that high, or we'd be worse off now. So we did borrow from the federal government. It's not an interest-free loan. We're trying to pay that back as quickly as possible, but we did not want to do that by causing the unemployment tax to be greater while businesses right now are still just simply trying to hang on and recover. So we temporarily suspended the law that requires this formula to be utilized. So it won't be in force again until August of 2022. And if we have to suspend it again, then that's a possibility. Another bill that we passed increases the maximum weekly unemployment benefits by about $30 a week. Law enforcement was in the news a lot in the past year. During the session, we passed House Bill 21, which makes some changes to post-training for officers. We also passed House Bill 325. It requires guidelines and officer training to ensure the safety of dependent children when their parents are arrested. In a section I'm going to call Law and Liberty, we passed a bill that creates the crime of staging a motor vehicle accident. So hopefully all of our auto insurance rates will go down once that one kicks in. We also passed a bill that allows an offender who completes a bachelor's or a master's degree program while in custody to earn additional good time credit. We passed a bill that reduces the amount of time a person can be held in jail without being charged. We passed a bill that requires a defendant to be informed of certain rights and consequences prior to pleading guilty or nolo contendere. And we passed a bill that removes a time limit for victims of child sex abuse to file civil suits. Also, we passed a bill that raises the minimum age to purchase tobacco and tobacco alternative products from 18 to 21, and one that requires the singing or the playing of the national anthem prior to an athletic event that's held at a publicly financed venue. Now, we also passed a constitutional carry bill, a bill that prohibits the government from discriminating on the basis of COVID shot status, better known as a vaccine passport, and a bill to protect fairness in women's sports. But all these three, plus about 23 more, were vetoed after we left session, which prompted the first time ever veto override session. So we went into the veto override session for about 2 days, and after 2 days, we didn't have the votes to override anything. So some people considered the veto session a waste, but I don't believe so. If you remember a few years back, it was understood that it was not humanly possible to run faster than a 4-minute mile until somebody did it. And now, the elite runners all aim for that, and many of them have broken that barrier. Well, we've never had a veto override session before in the history of our current state constitution. But now that we have, we've broken that ceiling, and most everybody that watches these political things expects that we will see veto override sessions much more frequently in the future. This is the legislature doing what is constitutionally required of the legislature. So don't think that's a bad thing. We have 3 branches of government, and they're all supposed to act on a certain authority. Now, the next session that we go into will likely be a special session around February for the purpose of redistricting. The census numbers should be ready soon, but we don't expect that they'll be sent to us in time to hold a session before the end of the year. It's going to take some time to take those numbers and process them. So the redistricting session is expected in February or March, probably late February. Right now, the state has established a website for anyone who would like to learn more about redistricting, and that is redist.legis.la.gov. That's redist.legis.la.gov. Now, on the ballots this fall, we will have 2 separate election dates that have constitutional amendments, and the first one will be October 9th, where we will see 4 amendments on the ballot. 2 of those are some that I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the budget and tax reform. The one that creates a commission, a state and local streamlined sales tax and use commission, will be on the ballot October 9th, and the one that reduces the maximum rate of individual income tax will also be on the ballot, along with 2 others. On November 8th, there will be 5 constitutional amendments on the ballot, and I would be happy to briefly mention those tonight if you'd like, but I would prefer to come back later in the fall, closer to Election Day, and we can discuss all of these in more detail in time for voters to be able to make their decisions. So I am happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah,
Mr. Babin?
yeah, Beryl, you just said November the 8th. That's a Monday. Jessica's reminder, I think it's the November 13th, the Saturday.
Well,
Because
usually
November the 8th is a Monday.
honestly, the November date is normally a Tuesday. I'm going by the date that was published on the website, but
Yeah.
I stand to be corrected.
Well, I thought it was on a
passed
Saturday, but I mean,
Okay.
I thought we just passed something that the recreation consolidation is gonna come up on that election, and we said it was the 13th. So
Well, that may be correct.
Yeah, because the 8th is a Monday, and I know we don't normally have elections on Mondays.
Yes, so this must be the wrong date.
Right.
I will be happy to go with whatever the Secretary of State's website
Sure.
says is the election date, because that would be the most authoritative date that we have. Thank you for pointing that out. I'll be sure and correct it.
You got it.
Thanks, Mr. Babin. Mr. Guidry?
Beryl, tell us about the grass cut in the roads,
Grass grows.
in the roads. You know what I'm
yes.
talking about.
Oh, yes. I regularly communicate with the DOTD regional director. I know that as we speak, unless somebody went out there in the past 36 hours, the grass along the shoulder of the road, the bayou side, in Schriever on Highway 20, between the bypass road and Louisiana Drive, is so tall that it stands above my car, and when it rains and the wind blows, it leans over into the driving lane. This is a hazardous situation. I have reported that. I know that there are many places throughout the parish where the state is responsible for the grass. That's basically along any and every state roadway. I know that the department always says that their top priority is safety, and I do remind them of that when it does seem that sometimes the grass is being maintained in a way that may not be focused on safety first. I know that the department has struggled, especially during the COVID shutdowns, with staffing and, of course, equipment. I have been encouraging companies who may be qualified to do contracting with the state or the parish who do grass cutting and, that kind of maintenance, to take a look at the number of miles within the parish that the state or the parish is responsible for, and work up a price and contact the DOTD or the parish and say, hey, I can cut this section of road and keep it up for this dollar amount. Maybe if it would cost less to do that, the parish or the state may take them up on it. I also want to encourage people who own property, especially when they own property on one side of the road and there's this batcher land, a little sliver of land on the opposite side, especially along the bayou. If property owners, when they're cutting their grass in their yard, could also cut their grass across the street, that would help a bit. But the main areas of concern are those areas where the visibility of drivers is blocked by vegetation on the side of the road. I know that the DOTD tells me that they are able to make a pass 3 times a year. And as you know, by the grass in our own yards, 3 times a year is not going to keep it manicured. It's barely going to keep it safe in some areas. So I'm going to encourage citizens to report the grass that is a safety hazard, and I continue to pass those on to DOTD to try and help them to recognize when something's becoming a safety hazard. As far as the roads, I know that there are various road projects going on right now, so some of the contracts are in progress. I have received a lot of complaints concerning the resurfacing that's going on Highway 24 in Schriever and on parts of Highway 311. And from my understanding, it's the same contractor doing both jobs. So when they're on one road, they're not on the other road. And so after a few days, I noticed that these orange cones, the safety cones, sometimes wander over into the traffic lane. And so when I see that or when I get a complaint about that, I contact DOTD. And so far, when I have contacted them, it's been taken care of within 2 hours. Because I do go out and drive and double check. Because honestly, if it's not taken care of, maybe I shouldn't say this in public, but I don't mind getting out of my car and fixing it. I don't know if that puts me at liability if I put a cone in the wrong place, but if we're working to just try and avoid accidents, then that's the best we can do. Now, as far as the road projects that have not begun yet, there is a list, and I can check on dates for when they may begin. I'd like the public to remember that it's a process. There's a priority list. They have to take the money that they have in a given budget year and start at the top and keep working down as far as they can until they run out of money and have to wait till the next budget year. Also, every project has to be studied, it has to go out for bid. There's just, it takes months and months. It's not as simple as, say, when we have a need for a repair at our house and we call a contractor to come on out. Government moves slowly, and the higher the level of government, the more slowly it moves. And so these are things that we're very aware of, and these are things that we stay in constant communication about. A lot of times people say, well, if they would just have more money. And money can solve a lot of these problems, but not all of these problems. Sometimes it's about prioritizing, sometimes it's about staffing, sometimes it's about spending the money we do have properly. And that's why one of the bills I mentioned earlier, the House Bill 514, was exciting, because if we can use that revenue that comes in already from sales tax on vehicles and take care of some of these big projects around the state, then that frees up other DOTD money so that we can take care of some of the smaller ones in the regular course of business, and hopefully a lot of the maintenance that gets neglected when we do have to fund a big project.
You know, I know down in Ukiah, I mean, you say they cut it 3 times a year, but there's places that they've never cut it yet this year. You know, that's real tall. And on Highway 58 between me and Steve Trosclair's district, there's a real sharp curve with the black and yellow signs showing you a curve. The grass is so tall that you can't even see the signs anymore, you know. And another thing, I know you was at our MPO meeting a couple of weeks back. How about these machines to grind these humps out these highways that makes it so bad?
The last report I got is that the grinding machine is broken. So I'm waiting to find out. So it's broken. How long has it been broken? Are we waiting on parts? Is it time to replace the machine? And if it's going to be out of service for a long period of time, is there no way we can borrow one from the next district? Can we rent one? So I'll be looking for answers to those questions. It seems that a lot of the bumps throughout my district that I've reported, they're going on 2 years now that they have not been grinded. So has our machine been broken that long?
I guess it has, Beryl, because I've been hollering at them for down Highway 56 and nothing seems to get done with it, you know. But we need to do something with DOTD. I mean, it's getting worse and worse every year. I mean, it's been bad for grass cutting and all and maintenance, but it seems to be getting out of hand.
Right.
And I know all these council people, they got a lot of, you know, parish roads, I mean, state highways in that district. We get a lot of BS for them, you know, and they want to blame it on us. Well, it's not us, but I don't know what we can do, you know. It's I don't know.
Right. The list, the work orders, I requested a list of all the work orders from the beginning of last year so that I can see what has been done, because I'm like you. There are places down the bayou, I'm pretty sure, have not had their grass cut in 18 months.
No, it hasn't.
So what happened to the 3 times a year?
Yeah, because
So-
they came and they sprayed some of it, but it didn't even die. So whatever they sprayed it with didn't work.
Right, and
So-
what I've seen them do lately is they'll come out and they'll spray a section, and about 3 days later or so, then they'll come and cut it. I believe they're doing that so that they're reducing the grass so that it's not so stressful on the equipment to try and save the equipment, the life of the equipment, make it work longer.
But if they cut a little more often, then they wouldn't be stressing the equipment out.
There's a balance that needs to be had, and I'm checking with Secretary Sean Wilson of the department, the state head, because there was supposed to be a plan submitted that would make sure that those areas that cause the greatest safety hazard for drivers would be taken care of on a more regular basis. I thought that I would receive that plan when it was presented. I have not yet received that plan, so I'm requesting that now. So if that plan has been created, I'd like to see it. If it has not been created, I'd like it to get created because it's time. It's past time.
All right. Thank you for your answers, Ms. Barrow.
Sure.
Thank you, Dirk. Mr. Babin?
Yeah, Beryl, at the MPO meeting probably 6 months ago, I guess it was 6 months ago, Chris Morvant was there, and it came up. Pat Gordon actually brought it up, and then Dirk and John and I got involved with it. Clay Nakan, who's now in charge of all that for the parish, got with Morvant to try, and if the state pays X number of dollars for a 2-lane road and so much for a 4-lane road. Well, it would have been price prohibitive for us to try to do it. Even if it was revenue neutral, we would be happy. So possibly, if you could look at in raising that rate, it's going to save the state money, because then they don't have to have the equipment to do all of the roads that they're doing, and we won't get the calls because the parish will be doing it. So again, that if we took a look at that rate schedule that the state has in place for parishes to cut state roads, I think if that could be increased, you would see a lot of parishes probably pick that up.
I'd be happy to discuss that with them and bring you into the conversation.
Good.
What I'm told whenever I do talk with the different DOTDs is that most parishes already do take it upon themselves to cut the most significant areas where the biggest safety hazards arise, because as I said, the higher the level of government, the slower it moves. So a parish is much more nimble and better able to identify
and we have, and it's private citizens that have been cutting it as well. It's just that liability is something we did. But if you could check into that rate schedule, I just think in the long run, it's going to save the state a lot of money. And it's going to save us the headache of trying to get to the state to cut grass 3 times a year. No, it doesn't. It's not. You know, you represent By DeLodge and Grand Kai just like I do. Beryl and I talk an awful lot on trying to get the grinder to get in there and the grade-alls to get the shoulders straight so water drains off the road.
Yes, because when the edge of the paved road, when the edge of the paved shoulder has grass or other vegetation growing up higher, then water does not necessarily run off into the ditch. It stays on the road, thereby creating another safety hazard, which is supposed to trigger a quicker response.
Right.
And it doesn't always seem to.
Thank you, Beryl.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Amity. And for those people that live in your district, if they have an issue, grass be it, or maybe heat bumps in the road, what is the number to your legislative office?
I don't have it memorized.
Hey Siri,
It's
call
because
legislative office.
I quit memorizing phone numbers whenever I got a cell phone that remembers them all for me, so I will be happy to recite that. It is, of course, area code 985-858-2967. 858-2967. And I am happy to keep a running list of whatever areas need attention. I have so many right now that I've recently reported, from sinkholes to shoulders that need scraping to grass that's towering over vehicles to water that stays on the roadway during rains, like the rain we had this afternoon. I know that just while I mentioned rain, there are many people that contact me because the roadside ditches along state highways need to be cleaned out, or the culverts. And I pass those along to DOTD, and it seems that they're even more slowly moving on those reports than they are grass. And when I've asked them about it, they've said that their first priority is driver safety. So when water is standing on the road, that's their main concern. when water is standing in a yard, that's not really their concern. And so this is the frustration for many residents who have a roadside ditch along a state highway, so the parish doesn't really want to deal with it. DOTD doesn't want to deal with it because it never quite reaches the top of the priority list as they're dealing with standing water on the roadway. And as frustrating as that is, it still needs to be remedied. If the state is going to maintain that drainage ditch, then the state needs to actually maintain it at some point in time. We've gone years, in many cases, since the state has come through and taken care of some of these culverts, and I'm pushing to get them to make a plan of action for that too.
Thank you. Mrs. Trosclair.
Yes, water on the roadways, and I've never called you about it, but I've called DOTD several times. There's an area on Highway 24 between Berg and Presque, about a 1 mile section, that water stands on that road, has been standing on that road for several years. And it is, in some areas, probably 2 to 3 inches deep. And it don't take a big rain to do that. So all I can say is, Sean Wilson, DOTD, good luck.
Yeah. And in this location you're mentioning, it's not in my district, but do you know what the problem is? Is this vegetation? Is this a ditch?
The shoulders are actually higher than the road. You know, they need to be scraped down and graded off so that the water can get off the road.
Okay, so it's scraping and grading.
That's what it is.
What seems to be a routine maintenance thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd hoped to speak to you before the meeting, but I have a resident in Gibson who's dealing with some heat buckles in front of his house on Bayou Black Drive, and I'm going to give him your number and let you inform him that the machine is broken, so you can get that the brunt of that backlash when you tell him that. So
that will be fine, and I'll pass that right on up to Sean Wilson and figure out how long can the machine stay broken before we borrow or rent or what. Because, you know, I can go out there with my own shovel and clear part of a ditch as much as I can reach. I can go out there with my own weed eater or my own lawnmower and take care of some grass. But I don't think many of us have the equipment to take care of a buckled road. That's not something we can expect residents to do. So it's definitely a need, and it's something that the state is going to have to do.
thanks, Representative Amity, for coming and giving us
Sure.
that update.
Thank you.
Motion to go into public hearing.
We have a motion to go into public hearing by Mr. Danny Babin. Who seconded that? Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We will divert from the agenda and take up the 6:30 public hearings. Item A, an ordinance to amend Article 2, Comprehensive Solid Waste Management Program of Chapter 11 of the Terrebonne Parish Code of Ordinances to classify waste generated in the process of lawful evictions, to provide procedures for management and disposal of bulky waste not authorized by the parish to pick up, and to provide for administration and penalties for violations related thereto. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion to close by Ms. Domang, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, say aye. Motion to adopt, Ms. Domang. Seconded by Mr. Gerald Michel. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item B, an ordinance to establish a four-way stop at the intersection of Kelly Drive and McCoy Street. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion to close, Mr. Gerald Michel. Seconded, Mr. Steve Trosclair. All in favor, say aye. Motion to adopt, Mr. Gerald Michel. Seconded, Mr. John Amity. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item C, an ordinance to correct and update the polling locations identified in ordinance number 9099 to establish precinct 15, Southdown Elementary School located at 1124 St. Charles Street in Houma, Louisiana. Precinct 16, Southdown Elementary School located at 1124 St. Charles Street in Houma, Louisiana. Precinct 29, East Park Fire Station located at 8547 Park Avenue in Houma, Louisiana. Precinct 46, Municipal Auditorium located at 880 Verret Street in Houma, Louisiana. Precinct 58, Pontchartrain Elementary School located at 1236 Highway 665 in Montague, Louisiana. Precinct 63, Little Caillou Volunteer Fire Department Fitness Center located at 5612 Highway 56 in Chauvin, Louisiana. And Precinct 72, Dularge Recreation Center located at 1330 Dr. Beatrice Road in Terrio, Louisiana. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion closed, Mr. Dirk Gidry. Seconded, Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor say aye. Motion to adopt, Mr. Dirk Gidry. Seconded, Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item D, an ordinance to amend the supplement ordinance number 9277, which authorized the issuance by the parish of Terrebonne not to exceed $6 million of its public library sales tax bonds, Series 2021, ratifying the sale of the bonds to Raymond James and Associates Incorporated and provide for other related matters in connection therewith. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion closed, Mr. Dirk Gidry. Seconded, Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Motion to adopt, Mr. Dirk Gidry. Seconded, Mr. John Amity. Any discussion? Mr. Dirk Gidry?
Yeah, well, you could have go ahead and voted. I just want to let everybody know that the $6 million, most of it is going to a new library that's going to be located on the Klondike Road. We're in the process. After this is being done, we're going to close the Bergview Library down, the Lokai Library down, the Montague Library down, and we're going to have one beautiful library. Last time I was told it was about 9,000 square foot library, so we're going up into the modern days. There's going to be computer rooms for after-school kids tutoring. There'll be meeting rooms for community meetings. So this has been well even before Steve Trosclair. It was when Pete Lambert was a councilman. So we've been working on this for about 10 years now. So I just wanted to let everybody know and thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Gidry. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Next ordinance, an ordinance declaring a 2002 XL 4100 Gradall unit number 3273 from the Drainage Department having a value of $15,000 as surplus and authorizing said item to be disposed of by any legally approved methods. Public once. Public twice. Third time public.
Close.
Motion to close, Mr. Danny Babin. Seconded, Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye.
Adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Danny Babin, seconded Mr. John Amity. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item F, an ordinance amending the 2021 budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government so as to adjust the 2021 adopted beginning fund balances and the net position to actual as per the 2020 audited financial statements. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion closed, Ms. Jessica Domingue. Second, Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor say aye. Motion to adopt, Ms. Jessica Domingue. Second, Mr. Danny Babin. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item G, an ordinance to amend the 2021 adopted operating budget and 5-year capital outlay budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Local Government Assistance Program, $0 change. Petite Caillou Lock Structure, $4,686. Public Safety Fund, $750,000. Juvenile Detention, $100,000. Criminal Court Fund, $250,000. Dedicated Emergency Fund, $1,100,000. Coastal Restoration, $3,555. Severe Repetitive Loss Program, a credit of $209,199. Hazard Mitigation Grant, a credit of $6,660. FMA Flood Mitigation Program, a credit of $26,510. PDMC RFC Programs, a credit of $21,844. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion to close, Mr. Gerald Michel. Second, Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Motion to adopt, Mr. Danny Babin. Second, Mr. John Amity. Any discussion? Mr. Michel.
Thank you. Ms. Candace, if you would look at the backup on the Attachment C Public Safety Fund, would you please explain each of those little lines to me if you don't mind? Okay, take your time, and y'all, if y'all wanna look at that, it's under the item G at 6:30, and it's a couple of pages in, and, you know, maybe y'all understand it better than I do, but I just would like an explanation, just to understand it better. I figured that would just be a simple one to explain.
So we're talking about the budget amendment. You're looking at the backup material, or you're wanting,
I'm looking at the backup material, the adopted, the change, and the amendment.
okay. So it is, this will open, I can tell you. So you're looking at like attachment C for the public safety fund?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is doing, and if you look at the wording, it tells you that because of the transfers that were approved from the American Rescue Plan lost revenue, we were able to put it towards governmental services. So that is also allowing us to go reduce the transfers that general fund usually does to public safety fund. So this is putting money back into the general fund that's not needed in the public safety fund.
Okay.
And the reason of doing this, because we're doing it for public safety, juvenile detention, and criminal court fund, is those were some funds that had some heavy expenses related to COVID expenses. So it's going to go to the general fund, and then it's going to go to the dedicated emergency fund to reimburse us for that
Okay.
expenses.
So looking back at the at item G on the agenda, it's a positive $750. That means that the public safety fund is money is coming out of that fund if it's positive. If it's negative,
sir.
money is going into the fund.
For transfers, yes, sir. Because it would be considered an expense to that fund, which would be a positive.
Okay, so just to clarify, if you look at item number 8 on the agenda, severe repetitive loss program, that means that $209,000 is going into that fund.
No, sir.
Okay, do you see why I'm confused?
I do.
Okay.
And it's because of how the accounting world works with your debits and your credits and your revenues and your expenses and your transfers in and your transfers out. The items that you're looking at, the last couple of items for the severe repetitive loss, the hazard mitigation grant, your flood mitigation, all of those are actual grant programs that we have with FEMA in place, and FEMA has actually closed them, and we've been carrying them in our budget. So we're just reducing that. So your credit there would probably have to do with it reducing the net or the fund balance in those funds based on what was budgeted for revenues and expenses related to those projects.
And I'm not questioning any individual thing here. My question is to try to understand how it's written. What I don't understand is why the severe repetitive loss program shows a minus and the other one shows a plus.
It would have to go, so the severe repetitive loss is made up of multiple accounts. So the credit or the number that's shown in parentheses right here is saying a reduction in that fund based on your revenues and your expenses and the fund balance that's in there and based on how in accounting it's done for debits and credits. So it gets real confusing because your credits could be revenues, your credits could also be transfers in, it's the accounting world of it. So if you look, the severe repetitive loss one is attachment H in the back.
Okay.
So you'll see overall all of these accounts. So we have several different FEMA revenue accounts. So if you look at what was adopted, if it's in a credit or if it's in parentheses, it's a revenue account. If it's not in parentheses, it's a debit. It's an expense. So the net effect of that is that change to fund balance of $209,199.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
I will be glad if you want to call or come to my office and we can look at it account by account.
Okay, and again, that wasn't the purpose, but I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Michelle. Any more discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item H, an ordinance to appropriate funds relative to and for the adoption of the operating and capital budgets for the Terrebonne Council on Aging Incorporated. Public once, public twice, third time public. Motion to close. Who made the motion? Me or Gerald. Gerald Michelle, seconded by Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion to adopt, Mr. Steve Trosclair, seconded Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Motion to go back into regular order by Mr. Dirk Gidry, seconded Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are back in regular order. Item number one, item C has been pulled, but Councilwoman Jessica Domain had put on to discuss discussions relative to the sale and use of fireworks. Item D is a proclamation proclaiming the week of August 15th through the 21st as National Health Center Week. And I'm proud to read this resolution. It says, whereas for over 50 years, community health centers have provided high-quality, affordable, comprehensive primary and preventive health care in our nation's underserved communities, delivering value to and having a significant impact on America's healthcare system. And whereas, as the country's largest primary care network, community health centers are the health care home for 30 million Americans in over 14,000 communities across the nation. And whereas community health care centers are a critical element of the health system, serving both rural and urban communities and often providing the only accessible and dependable source of primary care in their communities. And whereas community health care centers serve as beacons of essential resources and support in testing and treatment in the face of the global coronavirus pandemic, and will continue to offer reliable, affordable, high-quality care against COVID-19 for Americans' most vulnerable and underserved communities. And whereas every day community health care centers develop new approaches to integrating a wide variety of services beyond primary care, including oral health, vision, behavioral health, and pharmacy services to meet the needs and challenges of their communities. And whereas community health centers are governed by patient majority boards, ensuring that the patients of each health center are engaged in their own healthcare decisions. And whereas community health centers nationally employ more than 253,000 people, including physicians, nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, and certified nurse midwives who work as part of a multidisciplinary clinical team designed to treat the whole patient. And whereas during National Health Center Week, we celebrate the legacy of America's community health centers and their vital role in shaping the past, present, and future of America's healthcare system. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Terrebonne Parish Council, on behalf of the Parish President Gordon E. Dove and the entire Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, do hereby proclaim August 15th through the 21st, 2021, as National Healthcare Center Week, and encourages all Americans to take part in this week by visiting their local health center and celebrate the important partnership between America's community health centers and the communities they serve. And it's signed by myself on behalf of the council and Parish President Gordon E. Dove. Do we have anybody here representing healthcare centers? Hold on.
Can't get it up there.
These complicated machines. Go ahead and state your name, if you don't
Okay.
mind, for the record, and your your position?
Okay, yes, thank you. My name is Florence Beverly. I'm with the marketing department at Tax Action Clinic, and I thank you for having me. This is a great honor for us to celebrate Community Health Center Week. It gives us the opportunity to celebrate our staff, our patients, and our board of directors. We go out and we have different events throughout the week. Having a day of a lunch and activities for our staff, and giving treats to our patients and gift bags, and just let them know how much we appreciate them and coming to us and being of service. We actually go out and as well celebrate law enforcement, show them the need for them as well. So we thank you for honoring us today and for this entire week of services that we will be providing and putting on activities for our staff this week, actually throughout the whole month. So once again, thank you all.
And thank you so much for coming.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving on. Staff reports, update on drainage, pump stations, generators, and other projects. Mr. Mike Toops?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everyone should have received the email with the pump report yesterday. I'm happy to report that we have 201 out of 201 pumps fully functional for 100% efficiency. An update on the West Side Boulevard at St. Louis Canal pump station. Energy did make the final connect. Shockwave checked the rotations on all the equipment. So that pump station is fully functional on both diesel and electric. The only item left to remain to be done is for Blue Ant to install a fence around the site. An update on the Enterprise Menard Road pump station. The HPU was received by MWI in Florida. They did a preliminary estimate. It's going to cost us, they estimate, between $25,000 and $30,000 to fix it. Associated Pump fixed the lower unit with the hydraulic motor and the impeller for $8,000, and we received approximately $80,000 from our insurance company for the repairs. So we will get that repaired, and we will have some surplus funds from that repair. The other thing I'd like to note is we attended the pre-construction meeting for the L.A. Jones pump station on the 4th, and they requested us to remove the 3 portable pumps we have at the L.A. Jones Canal so that they could begin the construction. So by their request, we did remove those portable pumps. And those are the highlights. That concludes my pump report, unless anyone has any questions.
And just to say, we're entering into lower water season, this is the time that we can afford to move those pumps and install that. So it should not affect drainage at all, since we have passed the high water event with the Atchafalaya. We do have some speakers. Mr. John Amity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Toops, who's the general for that Elliott Jones project?
Sea level.
Sea level. Good deal. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Dirk Guidry.
Yeah, I'd like to let everybody know that Terrebonne Parish government and the Terrebonne Parish Levy District did a test run on our new conveyance channel that we built in Chauvin to see about draining the Biolokai out for storm events, and also to keep the water levels down so that we don't have water in our ditches, so maybe the DOTD could cut the grass a little bit better and off our biocides. And it was amazing to see that we pumped about 13 to 14 miles of Biolokaya. We dropped the water level 5 inches in Biolokaya in 3 hours. It was amazing to see that much water get pumped out of a bayou in that short of amount of time. So, thanks to GIS for doing the engineering, sea level. John, you can see that again. They did a bang-up job. It's a great company to have to do any of our projects in Terrebonne Parish. And I mean, it was amazing just to see, and I've been working on this for a project about 8 or 9 years. And it was just amazing to see that much water could get pumped out of Biolokaya in 3 hours. So, I mean, everything we do is one step forward. It's one more part of the puzzle that we're putting together for drainage and doing better in our parish. I know There are some places that we still have problems, and we're working on them. Just give us a little bit of chance. I know if it's your problem, it's a big problem, but overall, Terrebonne Parish, we're doing a great job. After we do a few more jobs in Steve's district, the whole Terrebonne Parish should be sealed up from any kind of hurricane problems that we could have, water-related problems that we could have. So thank you all to the council, and thanks to Gordy Dove, and thanks to everybody for making this project a great success. And like I said, to see that water level go down 5 inches in the bayou in 3 hours, and this is a long ways from Thompson Road to Boudreaux Canal. So thank you all a lot for anybody that had anything to do with it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Guidry. Mr. John Navy.
Yes, I want to make a comment about the fact that I watch TV almost every night because they help me go to sleep. But I don't know who put that together, but all those projects in all y'all districts, I mean, the community, if they really want to know, watch TPTV. That's a beautiful thing because you got all your pump projects, you got all your community projects, and it's a pleasant thing to watch, man. I don't know who was the orchestrator that, but that was a great job to have that where the community could just turn on the TV and see all the projects in the parish. That's a wonderful thing. I don't know, I haven't heard anybody talk about that,
No.
but that's a great thing. Thank y'all, and y'all fellas and young ladies ought to be thankful for the projects, and people can see what y'all doing in y'all community. So that's a wonderful thing. I just want to, give you some grace on that, because I love to see that. Every night I watch that thing, man.
Thank you, Mr. Navy. That's a direct request from President Dove, and that's a project that was taken on by our IT department, who always does a phenomenal job. So kudos to them. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Toops. Not seeing any lights, we will move on to public wishing to address the council. Ms. Julie Jackson, a resident of 226 Douglas Drive, Houma, Louisiana, wishes to address the council regarding a previous study conducted on a vacant lot next to her home that is causing drainage issues. Is Ms. Jackson here tonight? All right, we will move on. Item B, Mr. Jerome Fobb of Goday Drive wishes to address the council relative to drainage issues in LeCompte subdivision. Mr. Fobb?
Can I give this to Mrs. It's been about 6 weeks since I last came here about the flooding. At Jerome Fobb, 105 Goday Drive in Berg. 6 weeks since the last meeting about the flooding in LeCompte subdivision, and not much has been done at all. And not agreeing with Mr. Rome and what went on at the last meeting, being familiar with transits and readings and everything, I took upon myself and a friend of mine that knew a lot about transits and has an updated laser transit. He and I went out into the subdivision and shot some points. And Mr. Rome said everything I said at the last meeting was true that needed to be done in LeCompte subdivision because we got major problems there. But he said he couldn't help me in the front of the subdivision, whereas the highest part at 8 feet above sea level, because the water from Justin from one side to the other would have to flow uphill, okay? So when we shot our transit on the corner of LeCompte and Justin in the catch basin right here in that square corner, we shot it at the bottom of the catch basin with our transit shooting in the middle driveway that I used to own. And that middle driveway at the middle of the two lots is 3 inches above the elevation from the corner of Justin and LeCompte and the corner of Justin and Goday. So if water goes in that ditch from the roads and from the lots, it has to go around the corner to the back of the subdivision, where everybody's saying it has to drain. But what happened is on lot number 1, block 3, where you see a double square in that little red block, the previous landowner, not the current, but the previous one, poured a driveway, that little red mark, without putting a culvert in. Then he hauled 12 to 14 inches of dirt and put in a ditch up to that culvert in the middle. So the water can't go nowhere around the corner. And also, from that bottom of that culvert to the corner of Justin and Godet, the middle of the ditch is 3 inches higher, and on the corner, you can see I have 2 zeros. 5 or 6 feet from each corner, we measured 0, but at the corner is 4 inches high. So the corner would have to be dug out so the water could flow around that corner. And also, what's my neighbors are telling me in the back, if you look on the second page, where we have the major problem with the big drainage ditch and culvert in the back. Well, you see these 2 lines at the end of Godet Street on that corner of Godet and Wood Street? There's 2 culverts right there that drains that whole subdivision. And that water comes to the back to when that ditch that should be dug out, but the water fills up and it starts pushing back towards Furman Street, towards us. So everything is draining to the center of the subdivision. And we're flooding in the front. That's what's happening. So my question is, I've been getting all kind of excuses why they couldn't come in there and dig out those ditches in Justin Street. The parish has the equipment, they have the personnel. That could have been done 6 weeks ago. And they have the permission because it's their duty, your duty, to keep those ditches open, those culverts open. So I'm wondering, why am I gonna flood again and nothing's being done?
Mr. Trosclair, do you want to go first, or you want Mr. Toops to go first?
No, I'll go. I mean,
Okay.
I don't. Okay, the front corner where he says 4 inches higher, I was never made aware of that. I mean, that can be dug out, I can get it dug out.
No, Steve, you did that before for me 2 years ago. I just never called you about it lately, but you did it and it did help.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you said it's still 4 inches high.
Right.
I can get it dug again, that's not a problem.
Well, with having the school buses cut that corner and all, and it keeps pushing the dirt back in the corner.
And I know in the last couple of weeks, we have had the pump trucks out there cleaning some ditches, some culverts out. And the reason the back ditch hasn't been dug is they had scheduled the excavators, the radars to go out there and dig it. When they got out there and started doing measurements, they couldn't use those machines, so they had to reschedule the excavators because they can't get off the road with the big trucks. They had to reschedule the excavators. The excavators are both on the north side of the parish. It takes escorts and it takes big trucks and it takes trucking companies and they also doing a job. So it is in line on the expedited work order to get down there to dig that cross ditch out. I mean,
So
like Barrow said earlier, government doesn't work fast. Things have to go through a process.
Right.
There's a priority list, and it is going to get done. I've been assured it's going to be done as soon as possible. Mr. Tooth might be able to expound on that, but that's the information I'm getting.
So why can't a backhoe and a dump truck go right down Justin Street and open those ditches again? Because from the middle culvert that's 3 inches above the 2 corners, that's 40 feet of a filled-in ditch. Then they got the double driveway that's blocked off with no culvert. Then you got another 40 feet to the catch basin that has 12 to 14 inches of dirt in the ditch. There's no more ditch. He filled it in. And it's the parish's responsibility to open up that ditch.
Well, that's
It's been 50 years that ditch in that corner's been there.
Why they're not doing it, why they won't do it. I can't answer that.
Mr. Toops, would you like to address that?
Yes, sir. Everything Councilman Trosclair said was correct. I would like to add that every culvert that we have a servitude for has been blown out. Every ditch that we have a servitude has been cleaned out. as Councilman Trosclair said, the back ditch across the last cross street, which the name of the street, sir? The last cross street.
Woods, I think it is.
Is it Woods? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We do have our track machines scheduled, and it has to be transported. And one final thing, we have authorized our legal department to do title searches and abstracts in order to get whatever servitudes we need to clean out the rest of the ditches and covers that we don't have the okay to clean out now.
So Mike, you don't have servitude to clean out any ditch on Justin Street? That doesn't make sense.
Again, sir, every ditch and culvert that we have servitudes on has been cleaned. We have authorized legal to do title searches and abstracts for those areas that we do not have servitudes for. Otherwise, they would have been cleaned.
Mr. Trosclair?
Yeah, Mike, let me explain to you what he's talking about. At the very front of the street, which is actually inside, very front of the subdivision, where it actually comes into, off the highway, that first cross street is Justice Street. That whole front corner has no ditches. It's been filled in by somebody. Now, Mr. Rome says that, our drainage department says with their studies and their elevation shots that is not hindering any drainage from the back of the subdivision. Okay? Now, I'm not a drainage expert. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a drainage engineer. But, if we need to get engineering involved, we need to do that. But that's the issue he's got for his house. And David, the last meeting, David stated, and he's told me several times, that section does not affect the drainage of the subdivision. Now, him and Darren did the surveying with transit, and they determined that there's some differential in elevation, which my understanding is the same differentials that when the parish did the engineering, the surveying, got the same numbers. So,
Yeah, these were the exact same numbers that David Rome had gotten. And really, I think Mr. Trosclair said that he was going to put in a work order on that 4 inches in that one corner to get that dug out. But other than that, the back ditch is already in line.
It's scheduled to be dug out, correct?
But the main problem for me is the corner, that lot on the corner of Justin and Goday.
I will get our people to go out and check it again, sir.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Bob.
Because I have water coming into my front bedroom at my home. My home is higher than the street, okay? And the streets are higher than the lots in the subdivision. And I'm still getting water coming into my bedroom. It's not rushing in, but it's seeping between the double plate and the concrete. So I gotta get in there with dehumidifiers and dry it all out. So that's how bad it is. I know about that because I owned that house and that lot till a few years ago. I built that house was the original landowner's house. I had it moved into the subdivision, added 1,700 square feet to it. Then I laid the culverts down with the parish 30 years ago. So I know that corner and everything drains. After Betsy and all those storms, an hour later they ain't got no water.
Thank you, Mr. Fogg.
Okay.
Okay, next item. Item C has been pulled, but it was Mr. Mark Jeff who wished to address the council relative to discriminatory practices by local law enforcement. We do have one speaker card. Mr. Chris Disher. Mr. Disher, please state your name and address for the record.
Chris Disher representing Cajun Broadband, 711 West Pinhook, Lafayette, Louisiana. I'm here to introduce our company to the council and offer our assistance in possible broadband expansion in areas of need in Terrebonne Parish. We started the company in 2015. because my 2 teenage boys were suffering in school because we had poor internet access at our house. And we wanted to do something about it because the big boys weren't taking care of us and we didn't want to move. So we created the company, people in the street picked up on the service, and then it quickly took off, and we bought 3 more companies, and we're now in 9 parishes, and it just keeps going. And we didn't realize the magnitude until we did our research, and 40% of Louisiana is underserved with with proper internet service, which is 25 by 3 megabytes per second. We care about the community. We're all about helping where we can. When people are laid off, we give them 2 months free service so they get back on their feet. We offer free service to fire departments and churches. And we just go where there's areas of need. We offer fixed wireless internet, which is using towers to go across long distances to get to remote locations, and we use fiber services to the home as well as to businesses. It hit us hard. We knew what was going to happen when COVID, that people were going home and the kids didn't have internet at their houses. And I don't know how these superintendents got through it. It was painful to do these hotspots and all this stuff, and these teachers, and this looked like it's going to happen again. And sure enough, the LEAP scores went down by 5%. And it's directly related to them working remotely. The reason I'm here today is I'm Representative Amending had asked me about 2 particular areas she wanted to help with, and wanted to help. One was Grand Caillou, down the bayou, and then Bayou Lourdes. And so I did my research, and it looked like the Grand Caillou is the same issue I had at my house, which is there's fiber in certain areas, but then go all the way down to Dulac and Dularge. The same thing could be on Highway 315. I don't think there's good service on by Falgout Canal. And so we have an opportunity to work together, as you may be aware of broadband programs. The one was the RDOF program that's already been released. Terrebonne Parish didn't get a lot of money from that, so you're probably not going to see a lot from that. The American Recovery Plan, you can use some of that money if you like for broadband, so you have that at your discretion at the moment. Bigger one is the Gumbo 477, Act 477 that got approved that has $180 available for the state, and they're hoping with the stimulus money they're going to be having up to $600 million with the state to be used for rural broadband, and it's made to work for the private and public cooperative endeavors to decide where they need their services.
Oh, hold on a second. Motion to send Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. Dirk Guidry to extend another minute. Go ahead.
So I'm almost finished. So I'm here to offer our services and work with individual council members if they have problems in their district and come together with a plan. It has to be quickly though, because the rules are coming out for this Gumbo money within the next 2 weeks. The applications need to be in October 1st through 30th, and the money will be dispersed in January. So I don't know if y'all are working with anybody or somebody's try to approach you to help with you, but we would like to offer our services.
Well, Mr. Disher, I encourage you to speak to our administration. Of course, we can't discuss it tonight because the item's not on our agenda, but I encourage you maybe tomorrow to reach out to maybe Mr. Toops, and he can direct you. Or Mr. Toops can direct you on which department to go to.
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right, moving along. Item 4, committee reports. Budget and Finance Committee, Mr. John Amity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee meeting held on Monday, August 9th, 2021, which calls one public hearing to introduce an ordinance to amend the 2021 adopted operating budget, 5-year capital outlay budget, and budgeted positions of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Road Lighting District Number 10, 5,000. Homa Downtown Marina, 5,842. Homa Downtown Marina, 2,800. La Petite Facility Improvements, $10,000. Engineering, $0. Add 1 engineer in training grade 205. Sanitation, new department, $514,360. Civic Center sidewalks, $211,701. East Homa East Park walking trails, $10,000, and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 25th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m.
Motion, Mr. Amity, second, Mr. Babin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Public Service Commission, Mr. Dirk Gidry.
I'll make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Public Services Committee meeting held on Monday, August 9th, 2021, and I have 5 public hearings. Introduce an ordinance to revoke parking meters located near 7839 Main Street and 7913 Main Street and designate both spaces as no parking zones and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 25th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Number 2, introduce an ordinance to establish a 3-way stop at the intersection of Scott Lane and Billy Street and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 25th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Item 3, introduce an ordinance to authorize the parish president to execute the necessary documents for an exchange of equally valuable immovable property between Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and Briar Patch Incorporated to facilitate construction of a HPD substation along East Street in Houma, Louisiana, to provide for related matters, and call a public hearing on said matter for Wednesday, August 25th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Also introduce an ordinance to name the courthouse square the Edward P. Bubby Lines Courthouse Square and to provide for related matters and call a public hearing on said matter for Wednesday, August 25th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. And finally, introduce an ordinance to amend ordinance number 5349 to change the street name of Fairmont Avenue to Fairmont Drive in order to reflect the correct street name and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 25th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m.
Motion, Mr. Dirk Gidry, second, Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item C, Special Policy and Procedure Legal Committee meeting, Mr. Gerald Michel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Special Policy, Procedure, and Legal Committee meeting held on Monday, August 9th, 2021, which calls for no public hearings.
Motion, Mr. Michel, second, Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item 5, Street Lights. As per Mr. Dirk Gidry. Seconded, Ms. Jessica Domang and Mr. John Amity. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Street lights have been approved. Item 6, vacancies to various boards, committees, and commissions. Fire Protection District number 5, 1 unexpired term. Veterans Memorial District, 1 unexpired term due to a resignation. Recreation District number 3, 1 expired term and 1 unexpired term due to a resignation. Districts, and also Recreation District number 6, 1 expiring term. Item 7, announcements.
You missed the fire district.
Did I miss a fire district? Which one? The Fire District number 5? Yeah. 1 unexpired term? I thought I had read that, but just in case. Announcements, the parish president. Is there anything from the parish president? Council members, Mr. John Amity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For those who don't have children in the schools, school is back in session. And I would just ask you to pay attention to the posted speed limits as you're driving through those school zones. Please keep your attention on the road. Whatever you're doing, any adjustments, telephone calls, whatever, please put that down while you're driving through. We want to make sure that our children return home safely from school. And again, pay attention to the posted speed limits. That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Steve Trosclair.
Yes, I just want to remind everyone to keep our law enforcement, first responders, firefighters, military veterans active and reserve and retired in your thoughts and prayers daily. Thanks.
Ms. Jessica Domang.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, did I put yours on? I put Danny's on by accident. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And on behalf of the council and on behalf of the parents of St. Francis, I'd like to thank the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Department, HPD, the DA's office, the City Marshal's office, and all the staff at St. Francis for being so organized and so orderly on Friday. What happened on Friday, we don't learn in school how to deal with those things, and they all did a wonderful job keeping the kids safe, and so I definitely want to thank them for everything that they did.
Mr. Danny Babin.
Yeah, as much as I hate to bring it up because I don't want to jinx things, we're in the middle of hurricane season. As we said last meeting, and we'll say every meeting, our sanitation department does a great job. If you need to clean up some stuff, put it in the front of your house and it will be picked up. Let's not wait till a storm is coming. Thank you. Clean your catch basins. Thank you, Mr. Kedrick.
Mr. Jeremy Michelle.
And they're talking about school starting, and hurricanes and tragedies, and COVID is the one that's staring us in the face right now. Please do what you can to protect those around you. Please go out and get vaccinated. It's free. Over 100 million people in the country have already done it. There doesn't seem to be any significant side effects to it, and it's the only way through this pandemic. Please heed that advice. That's coming from all medical personnel, not just me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michaud. Seeing any more announcements, monthly engineers reports. As per Mr. Dirk Guidry, second Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Motion adjourned.
Motion adjourned, Mr. John Amity. Second Ms. Jessica Domingue. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.